So far the Legends' adventures have taken them all over the time stream, but tonight's hour sees them explore some time old and someplace new, as part of the team splits up and ventures out into the Cretaceous period, where they're trapped, while a smaller group ventures into new territory, R.I.P Hunter's mind. Of course, that inspired suggestion comes from none other than Mick Rory himself, who brings up cognitive intrusion after R.I.P Hunter, who as evil as ever, manages to override the ship and make himself the captain again, with a little help from Gideon, of course. Though the blame is very much on the Legends for leaving a former Time Master by his captive Lonesome. I mean, really? Luckily, Mick is able to stop him with a single punch, much like most things in his life. But that still leaves the matter of the ship, which R.I.P set to self-destruct. Thankfully, Jax is able to prevent it by rebooting the ship, and Gideon, but doing that causes them to crash in time once again. Only this time, time pun, the Waverider returns to the Cretaceous period and manages to take out several trees in the process. R.I.P. nature. Fun side note, can we talk about how bad Mick's piloting must be that Stein thinks that their super turbulent crash was his handiwork? With the ship Jurassic Cretaceous parked, and 3 team members off on a separate mission, Sarah decides to use Mick's cognitive intrusion method to dive into R.I.P's mind and find out the location of the next piece of the Spear of Destiny. After a little bickering, it's decided that Sarah, the current captain, and Jax, who is grateful that R.I.P believed in him enough to make him chief engineer, will be diving into R.I.P's mind. However, they're armed with buttons that will allow them to shock their way out and warned to stay in there for only an hour. Not that that will be an issue. Sarah and Jax quickly learn that the reason R.I.P is so anti-Team Legends is because Thawne messed with his mind a la President Snow, so now Peter R.I.P thinks his friends are evil. However, as awful as this is for R.I.P, it's great for viewers, who get to see Sarah face off against R.I.P's mental version of herself. It's a closely combated contest, with the real Sarah only barely emerging victorious, especially considering they have almost exactly the same moves, which, kind of kudos to R.I.P's mind for knowing how his teammate would fight. Unfortunately, Sarah and Jax get separated. She winds up with the real R.I.P Hunter, who is still in there, and he ends up with a woman who ends up being Gideon herself. Done. While Jax and Gideon go in search of Sarah and R.I.P, the latter two discover that R.I.P can affect things in his own mind. While this may have been a little obvious to us, it's a completely new concept for R.I.P, who's losing the ability to tell the true from the false. Thankfully, Jax and Gideon arrive to let Sarah and R.I.P out of his mental prison, and give Sarah the chance to get her flirt on with Gideon despite the fact that she's a figment of R.I.P's mind. Bless you, Sarah. Never change. But their escape is foiled by the arrival of R.I.P's mental versions of the Legends, which Sarah and Jax do fight off, only for them to come back. This finally prompts R.I.P to use his mind to get rid of them, thus proving that the real Legend of Tomorrow was inside us the whole time. With moments to spare, Jax gets out and manages to shock Sarah out. Back in R.I.P's mind, everything's falling apart. Talk about a metaphor brought to life. In the midst of all that destruction, the former Time Master thanks Gideon and they kiss. With that, R.I.P wakes up. Later, Sarah checks on R.I.P and we get some light humor about how they both think they're the captain. When she leaves, R.I.P apologizes to Gideon, who, it turns out, remembers their kiss. To this, I ask, real or not real? Not that we dwell on this little plot twist for long. Instead, we see R.I.P reunite with his old teammates. Mick, of course, prefers R.I.P's more kill-happy persona, and introduce himself to the new